Hey, good morning, everyone. My name's Dan Pfyl, and I'm with Megaport, and I have Senior Director of Engineering Bill Thompson with me, and we are going to talk a little bit about Megaport and Wasabi and our continued relationship of working with each other and connecting not only Megaport but other cloud service providers to Wasabi. Morning, Bill.
Good morning, Dan. Thank you
You
for
want to
having
give
us.
us Yeah, you're welcome. You want to give us a few minutes about Wasabi and what you guys do for anyone out there that may not know?
Sure, Dan. Sure, Dan. So, first of all, Wasabi is very excited to be in the tech drop-in presentation today. Wasabi is a hot cloud storage platform doing S3 objects storage worldwide. So, we've been in service a little over 8 years now, and we've had a relationship with Megaport for almost that long. And recently, we've been working with Megaport to close up the relationship, better marketing, better advertisement, and also the connectivity, as you'll see. It's a great relationship. Wasabi prides itself on price, performance, and protection, along with ease of use. And what Wasabi appreciates with the Megaport Layer 2 transport is the ease of use that they allow a customer to onboard into a Wasabi data center for object storage. So we're excited for today. We look forward to your participation and look forward to answering any questions you have.
Yeah. Thanks, Bill. We love the the partnership we have also and being able to, excuse me, deliver these services to our customers. Um, so with that, I'm going to kind of get into the presentation here. I'm going to go off camera just so um, I'm not taking up your whole screen, and then I'll come back on video in a little bit. So just one more thing about Megaport. I just wanted to let you know that, we are a global company. You can see all of our locations in North America, heavily populated in EMEA and Asia Pac also, right? So with regards to connecting with Wasabi, there are a few options, and we'll go through those today. There is if you're in a Megaport enabled data center and you want to just connect that data center, or even if you're in a private data center, you can get some kind of Ethernet private line from your carrier of choice into one of our enabled data centers, and you can connect directly to Wasabi as well as other clouds. I think this is the normal Megaport setup. So if you already have this port and you're connecting to like Google or Azure or AWS, you can use that existing port as a VLAN and go off to Wasabi. We also have, and this is what we're going to kind of deploy today, is what's called the Megaport Cloud Router. And what Megaport Cloud Router does is moves this virtual um, router out towards the cloud service provider. So the hairpinning doesn't have to come all the way back to the data center. Now, I could have a connection off of this cloud router, and I'm going to show that today. But let's say that you need to move data from Azure over to Wasabi, and you don't have Megaport today. You could create this cloud router and just create a connection from Azure, AWS back to Wasabi. The last one I'm going to show very quickly is what's called Megaport Virtual Edge. And with Megaport Virtual Edge, it's like Cloud Router, except it has an internet drain. And that internet drain can also bring in some of your mobile or remote endpoints, as well as connecting, your cloud instance to Wasabi. So with that being said, let's go jump into the Megaport portal. So you can see here, I have a dashboard, right? And you can see all the locations that Megaport is present here. I spun up a couple of instances just for the ease and use of this demo. But if I was wanting to choose a location in St. Louis, I could click on here and go in closer and see, what locations I have. And here I have neutrality in St. Louis, and I have H5 data centers. So as easy as making a connection as a click and point, but let's back out and go back to where I was. In this view, you can see I built over here a connection between AWS and my data center in Phoenix. So to do this connection to Wasabi, we'll go into my services tab. Now, I've built a couple of scenarios. I talked about a layer two connection to Wasabi, and that is simply from a port to Wasabi. I could click as easy on this tile right here. And what's going to happen is Wasabi or Megaport portal is asking you for a service key. Now, this is a good time to talk about the service key, right? So, Wasabi, you need to engage Wasabi. And when you engage Wasabi and setting up their WDX connections here, right, there's a qualification and questionnaire. And at the bottom of this, it's going to ask you stuff like your name, your email, your billing and street address, AWS or Azure, whatever, account ID you may need. And then some technical questions about layer two, layer three, 10 gig hosted, all this different stuff. This is going to engage someone from Bill's team and a sales rep. And eventually, what you're going to get back after we understand what you're trying to deploy within Wasabi is going to be some information with the Megaport service key, the bandwidth that you're subscribing to, the VLAN this is going to be on. This could be a single use or multi use key, and when this key is going to expire. Now, like I said, couple of different models is as simple as a port to Wasabi if you're just trying to move data from your data center into Wasabi, or the Megaport cloud router if you're trying to attach multiple locations or multiple clouds or a data center and a cloud into Wasabi. So you'll get this information back with along with the IP addresses that you need. Wasabi uses static connections, not BGP. So you'll see when we go through the demo how we set up our Megaport cloud router to make these connections. So that's where the service key comes in. I can put in the service key here, but really it's just going to build a connection and then we're going to be done. So let's get out of this and we're going to work with our Megaport cloud router. Now I pre-built a Megaport cloud router here. Just to make it easy and you don't have to see this spin up. We have multiple videos on how to build an MCR on our docs.megaport.com page. In addition to, I built a VXC over to AWS because in this environment, we're going to pull data out of AWS and put it into Wasabi. So I've already pre-built this. Again, we have plenty of videos on how to build VXCs to AWS. So I kind of redeployed all this stuff. And what I really want to focus on is showing you how we connect to Wasabi. So it's easy as clicking on this connection button here. And then we're going to go into the cloud. You can see we can do various different things. But this service key is not the one we want. This is if you want to create a service key for somebody to connect to you. What we want to do is pick on cloud here. So when I scroll down, you can see here's the various different clouds I have. And at the bottom, I have Wasabi. And here again, it's asking me for that key. So that key, I wrote it down so I don't have to keep switching screens. But this is Echo Echo 34 1 Echo 59. Now, what's going to happen is our APIs are going to reach out to Wasabi and they're going to validate this key, right? So there's a key name and that you're going to connect to Wasabi. And in this case, you're getting a 1000 or a 1 gig connection into Wasabi. We're going to pick next here and we're going to give it a name. So this is going to be my connection to Wasabi. I don't have any partner details. This would be if you I'm in a demo portal because the real portal has a lot of connections in it for my portal. So I'm kind of in a demo portal. This is live. It's actually pulling real ports and real MCRs, but it's just a lot cleaner look for me. If I had a service level reference, if this was in relation to a project or something, I could say this was the migration project. And here I'm going to put in my rate limit. So I could go up to 1000 because that's what the key is. So let's just use a 1 gig um, virtual cross connect. Now, if you wanted 500, the key, like I said, would allow to go up to 1000. We do have different terms here. You can see they get a little bit cheaper as you go from a no subscription to a 12-month or a 24-month or 36-month. What this would allow you to do is maybe spin up a no subscription to move all your data over at a gig. And let's say that you need a sustained rate of 500 meg ongoing. Then you could come back into this VXC, click on 12 months, change the rate from a gig to 500 meg, and then choose next and finished out the circuit. What I'm going to do is just choose no subscription here because this is a demo, and I'm going to choose next. So here now we're talking about, okay, I have to fill out the information that was given to me by Wasabi with regards to my IP addressing. This is going to set up that static route, or in some cases BGP, maybe to other cloud service providers. But in our case, it's going to be a static route. So I'm going to use the IP address that was given to me on this when I filled out the qualification of form of 38.73.234.203. So we're going to use 38.73.234.203. And I'm going to put in here /31. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a NAT translation, because if I didn't hear, this wouldn't work since BGP is not supported. And I may be wrong in that, Bill. I know that we're setting this up correctly, so we can answer that question later if I'm mistaken. But if you needed to add BGP, you could do that right here and you wouldn't have any NAT enabled. What I'm also going to do is put in the far end side to Wasabi, which is 38.73.234.202. Now I don't have to put the /31 here because I've already told it this was a /31, so it already knows that 202 is what I need to be. I'm also going to put in a subnet mask here that you would get from Wasabi, which is going to be 38.146.40.0/24. And I can name this description if I want to. From here, I'm going to go and do next. This kind of gives me a summary of what I'm going to do. I can drop this down and it talks about this is a 1 gig connection. It's for the migration project and I'm connecting to Wasabi. It's going to cost me $336 per month. I've got my service key here, my rate limit 1000, and I'm going to add this VXC. Now, what this does is it does add at this connection, but you'll see here that it says has not been ordered yet. So over here, I have a shopping cart. Now, if I wanted to deploy this all at one time, I could have built all of these instances and had a big shopping cart here. But from here, all I have to do is order. It's gonna give you some important information about our agreement and tell you the cost again, and then I'm going to click to order this here. Now, this does take a few minutes to come up because this is running APIs in the background along with our connections into Wasabi. You can see here from the AWS, my AWS site is up. I can go into my AWS, and this is my connection here. You see it's AWS VXC. Here's my account information, and you can see that BGP is up, right? So as I go back into the portal, and like I said, it takes a couple minutes, I can go into Looking Glass. And you can see I have my connections here. Here's AWS, my neighbor routes. It's going to load all my and I can search just on static routes or BGP or connected or etc. But it shows everything in this first screen. And if I actually had this connect to a VPC, I would get in my BGP table, I would have a lot more stuff that's being transferred in and out of my connection, right? So let's go back to our services tab and see if this come up yet. Still looks like it's coming up. Like I said, this does take a few minutes. So at the end of the day, this is how we connect easily to Wasabi. The other thing that I could do is if I had need to connect back to my data center here, I could build another connection. And it's easy as oh, go into here connection. I want to do a private VXC, and now I want to connect it back to my port. I'll give this this is DC VXC. Maybe this is 500 meg. I'm going to click on no subscription because this is a demo. I'll create next. If I had my IP address, this would be my IP addressing at my local IP address on the MCR, and then my IP addressing here back at the data center. Since I don't have a router connected to it, I'm going to cancel out of here, but this is how easily you would create another connection back to the data center. So Bill, I'm going to come back on line here. I know we're waiting for this to come up, and sometimes it takes up to 5 minutes, and I know we're getting a little bit short on time here, but is there anything else that you want to talk about with Wasabi, either about the qualification form or how to engage Wasabi?
Sure. Thanks, Dan. Great demo. So just a slight minor correction. So Wasabi, from a layer 3 standpoint, supports both network address translation via a NAT interface, along with if the customer wants to do a BGP session with us, we do support BGP, hopefully with a public prefix. And in some cases where that public prefix may not be available from the customer, we'll work with you to, work on a private prefix advertisement. But generally, most of our customers are using a NAT interface. The implementation is quite straightforward. And from a term standpoint, the connection with Wasabi is up, and we follow all the SLAs for that.
Cool. Sorry, I misspoke on that. I knew that's the key that I had, so that's what I was going with.
Yeah, as you can imagine, and I'm sure we have a few network folks out there, but when it comes to BGP advertisement, there's always a discussion around the public prefixes through private prefixes. So any questions on that, feel free to send a message to sales@wasabi.com, and the sales team will connect with one of my folks on the team, and we'll work through you, especially on the Wasabi Direct Connect questionnaire. Any submissions to that questionnaire ends up in our mailboxes. So we normally see a preamble to that request and are prepared to discuss that with your network engineering teams.
Cool. Sounds great. This is still coming up. I know, like I said, this could take a few minutes. I'm not sure how we're doing on time. I know this is a half-hour time slot. Let's go into our looking glass super quickly here. We do have our connection to Wasabi. Everything looks good here. Let it refresh. So this is probably going to take a few more minutes. So with that, I'm going to say, go back to my Megaport. Basically, what we went over is one, we get a key from Wasabi. We make a connection. We go over into the Megaport portal. We use that service key and we connect it back to Wasabi. And then as far as their enabled regions are concerned, you can see they have presence in North America, in EMEA, and in Asia Pac. And correct me if I'm wrong, Bill, you're expanding these locations all the time.
We have basically 13 data centers in Japan also, and in Singapore, and we'll be implementing Megaport capabilities there very shortly.
That's great. With that, I'm going to say thank you. This concludes our webinar. Come back every week. We have different topics. And Bill, I want to thank you for being on and being one of my guest hosts today.
Thank you very much, Dan. Appreciate it.
Have a great day, everyone.
Take care, everyone.